Hello and welcome to Allie in Sweatpants. My name is Allie and I am wearing sweatpants. It's been a minute, but we're back. And I hope that the lighting is okay. This is the best I could do. I'm coming to you from Southern California where it is about to start pouring with rain, which I am so excited for. But so I have the window open, I have the overhead light on, so I hope it's all good. If you're new here, welcome. I hope that you enjoy what you see, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Big warm hugs to you. I'm so glad that you all have decided to spend a little bit of time with me. Today is not going to be a normal podcast episode. Today is going to be my like top favorite patterns that I've knit so far. I was gonna try to do like a top 10, but then I just didn't. So I hope 8 is okay. This is the first one of these kinds of videos that I've done where it's like a roundup sort of video, but I'm kind of excited. I did a little poll on my community page of what you guys wanted to see, and this won from the options that I provided. So I don't know, I hope you enjoy. I hope you find something in here that you would like to make. I'm more or less going in order of how many I've made. More or less, you know what I mean? Like I have a couple sock patterns in here, which obviously I've made the most of, but I didn't want to put it first just in case, you know, people weren't super interested in socks and they saw 2 socks back to back, whatever. But we will start with what I'm wearing. I was going to put this in my video, but it's not, sorry, I have my computer right here so I can see all the logistics and everything of all the patterns that I talk about. I was going to put this in, but it's just not very size inclusive at all. And she is a, oh my gosh, my computer's giving me grief. Okay, there we go. The designer, I think, is a smaller designer. You know, there aren't too many patterns out, but yeah, it only goes up to an XL, so there's only 5 sizes. So I didn't feel like I could really put it in this video as like a fair representation because I want as many people as possible to be able to enjoy the things that I talk about. But I am, oh, I need to like add another button there because that's just, I am wearing it. This is the JULE jacket or JULE or JULE, not sure, JULE jacket by STEFFI HABERKERN. And I love it. It has cables, it has, I think these are called infinity knots or trinity knots, I'm not sure. And then half fisherman's rib sleeves, and I just really, really love it. I enjoyed the process. This was the first thing I ever did with cables and the first thing I ever did with like a bobble type stitch. And yeah, I really, really love the pattern and I want to make another one. And so I hope that she expands her size range because it's such a beautiful, beautiful pattern. So all that being said, let's jump right in, shall we? The first pattern that I'm going to talk about, I have made 3 times, and it is the Grow Shawl by FIBERTALES. So the way I'm going to kind of do this is I'm going to show my samples if I have them, and then for the rest of the time that I'm talking about kind of the logistics of the pattern, I will put the designer's photo here so you can have a visual representation the entire time I'm discussing it. But here's the one I made for my mom last Christmas. For this, I used the Knit Picks Shine Worsted in the current colorway, which is a cotton and modal blend. It's just very beautiful, very soft. I will say this one has grown so much since I made it. I can't even get it all in. But you'll see in the next one I show you, I decided to omit the little, I don't know if you would call them cables, but the little braids that go up the columns here. And I think it looks so beautiful. So I made this one, and then I made another one for a really good family friend of ours it was like a Lion brand mercerized cotton. It was like I didn't really like the yarn very much, but I striped, it was like a warm brown and a burnt orange, and I kind of striped it. And again, I omitted the braids for that one. And then I made one for myself just recently. As you can see, I think I did the braids a little bit too tight at the bottom, and it kind of pulls up a bit, but here is mine. I did this as part of the Shall We Shawl knit along that my friend Martina was hosting from the We Grow Wild knitting podcast, and I loved it. See, here you can see I did do the braids, so they're not just knit columns, but this I did in Lion brand, 2 strands of Lion brand Kobu yarn, which is a bamboo cotton blend in the colorway taupe or mauve. If you've seen any of my episodes before, I still just haven't looked up that colorway, have I? I just always say either taupe or mauve. So here are my samples. I love them. My mom uses hers as you know, a shoulder shawl or a scarf or like a little lap blanket. I mostly use mine as a scarf. I thought about making another one and sewing them together up the center seam line to create like a blanket, like a lap gan type of thing, but I'm just really, my hair is bothering me. I'm just really enjoying it as a scarf, so I think I might just leave it. So this pattern, the Grow Shawl by FIBERTALES, is typically, it says here, a worsted weight yarn. So that's 14 stitches and 25 rows per 4 inches. That's what it calls for. The needle size is a US 8 or a 5mm, and it comes in, you know, one size, but if you wanted to make it bigger, you could just cast on more repeats and then you would make it bigger. You cast on, you know, it's a triangle shawl, so you start with the most stitches and then you go, you know, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's really nice. I really, really like that. I really like that style of shawl. It's actually the only shawl pattern that I've ever made, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the Grow Shawl. The next pattern that I will be talking about is the Oslo hat by PETITEKNIT. I have made 5 Oslo hats. One is missing because I made it for my boyfriend and he has it. He uses it for work. But so these 3 here, oh, I should have said this at the beginning. Family, friends, practically this entire video, the samples are going to be Christmas knits. So you may watch this after Christmas has come and gone. Thank you. I love you guys. Goodbye. For the rest of my friends, these are the Oslo hats. So I've made this one, which is a beautiful green. This was in a yarn from Hobby, which is a cotton linen blend. I've made this one, which is also a yarn from Hobby. It's the Baby Organic cotton fingering yarn in this mid-gray color. I've made this one, which I held 2 strands of Universal Yarns Bamboo Pop Sock Solids in their black colorway for this one. And then I've made this one for myself out of a yarn that I was kindly gifted from Martina. and it was an organic cotton fingering in this beautiful baby pink colorway. So I've made quite a few of these. I really enjoy the pattern. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful gift knit pattern. You know, it's all knitting in the round. It's not difficult at all. It takes a little bit of time because it's like a triple folded brim, but I think, you know, that makes it an even better gift because it'll be super warm. It, you know, looks like something that could be store-bought. So for people who don't really understand knitting or necessarily appreciate the handmade look, it could be a good option because, you know, it looks like something you could buy at the shops. But yes, let me give you the details. So the Oslo hat by PETITEKNIT, it is 2 fingering yarns held together to make a DK weight. So I've done it with 1 strand of DK, I've done it with 2 strands of fingering, and I've also done it with 1 strand of fingering, and I've had success with all 3 of those for my personal gauge, but you know, keep in mind. So it says here the gauge is 22 stitches and 32 rows per 4 inches in stockinette held with the yarn, knitted with the yarn held double. And the needle size you will need is a US 4 or a 3.5 millimeter needle. And it says here you need about 459 to 689 yards, depending on the size that you make. This one comes in 4 sizes. It comes in child, junior, women, and man. So there you go. That is the Oslo hat. I love mine. I wear it almost every night now to walk my dog. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think it's just a really good staple piece that most people could get really good use out of. I think it would be great to gift for, you know, almost anyone in the family. It would be great for sisters, brothers, dads, moms, uncles, aunts, you know, cousins, friends. It's very unisex and just very versatile. So on to the next. So the next one is the AOSTA sweater by Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl. And here's mine. My beautiful, beautiful. This has become like my sweatshirt basically, where I'm such a sweatshirt girl. I'm always wearing sweatshirts until I became like a hardcore knitter, and this has replaced my sweatshirt. If I'm cold, this. If I'm going on a walk, this. If I have to go get gas, this. Like, this is my throw on everyday sweater, and I love it so much. So this yarn might look familiar. I actually used the leftovers from my mom's grow shawl. So again, this is the Knit Picks Shine Worsted in the current colorway, and I love it. This is the old version of the pattern. She just released an updated version, which I think has an updated neckline. I think it has a German short row option and a sleeve decrease option to make it look slightly more unisex, maybe. But I love it. I've made the sweater twice. I made one for my friend and then one for myself. And I've made the cardigan twice also. I made one for me and one for my friend. And I also love the cardigan pattern, but I really, really love the sweater pattern. So it's knit top down raglan in Andalusian stitch. But it's like it's a knit purl, I think maybe a 4-row repeat. Super easy to memorize, super easy to read your work. Love it. Folded neckband. No decreases in these sleeves. Maybe decrease at the cuff. I can't remember, but yeah, I love it. I wear it all the time. All the time. So let's talk about it, shall we? Oof. Hair. Okay, so the AOSTA sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. It is going to be, it says here, yarn held together, bulky plus lace equals bulky. I will say I have used mostly like a worsted or like slightly heavier than a worsted, and for my gauge I have found success in that. It just sort of depends on your tension, but so it calls for bulky. It says 14 stitches and 21 rows per 4 inches in Andalusian stitch, which if you buy the pattern, there will be instructions for. The needle sizes are US 10, 6mm, and a 7mm. You will need anywhere from between 1,640 to 2,953 yards. I hope none of you are trying to count while watching this video. And there are 11 sizes, which is fantastic, fantastic. Is it interesting if I tell you what these patterns price for right now? I would find that kind of interesting. So I'm gonna go back to the Grove Shawl, sorry, intermission. And it's going for about $7.38 US or 50 DKK. And the Oslo hat is going for about $4.43 US or 30 DKK. Back to the AOSTA sweater, it's going for £6 or about $7.69 US. So there you go. That's the kind of price breakdown for the first 3 that I've talked about. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful pattern. It's the way that Sophie writes her patterns. They're very detailed, but not overwhelming. She gives stitch count breakdowns through multiple steps of the sweater construction. So you can really tell, you know, if you're on track or not. And it's just really well written. It's a lot of great information, and I would definitely recommend it for beginner knitters if you're looking for a sweater pattern, because yeah, she really holds your hand through the pattern and makes it very accomplishable, if that's a word. So next, I'm going to probably embarrass myself again with this pattern. The HIEDRA mitts by FIBERTALES. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I hope it is. But here are mine. I've knit this pattern 3 times. I'll put one on to show you. I've knit it once for myself, once for my mom, and once for my boyfriend. So here are mine. I knit these in Vegan Yarn's worsted base in the fern colorway. It's very beautiful. And I did a slight modification. The palm is not knit in stockinette in the pattern, and I modified it to be knit in stockinette. So yep, very beautiful. Here are mine. And then these are my mom's. And my boyfriend's look exactly the same. I used the exact same yarn. And this yarn is the Lion brand Pima Cotton in the pewter colorway. So yes, very, very beautiful. My mom and I both really love ours. I made them in time for a trip to Oregon. And so they were very useful. We use them when we walk the dog at night. And yeah, I really love them. I love that they have this long finger section. So if you want to use your hands, you fold them down. And if you want your fingers to be a bit warmer, you leave them up. Genius. So let's talk about them. The HIEDRA mitts by FIBERTALES. It calls for a DK weight yarn, and I will say I have had success with a more worsted weight yarn as well. So again, depends on your tension. But it says 17 stitches and 34 rows per 4 inches in garter stitch. That's your gauge. And it calls for a US 6 or 4mm needle. And I used little 9-inch 4mm needles. So I was just knitting in the round the whole time, and it was fantastic. It says you need anywhere from 142 to 175 yards of yarn, and there are 2 sizes. There's an extra small, and a medium or large. Those are the 2. And for all of mine, I knit the medium large, and I do not have like very big hands at all, and I find that they are like snug. So you could probably figure out a way to maybe just add like stockinette stitches on the sides to make them a bit bigger. But so just so you know, they only come in 2 sizes, and I guess it depends on your tension. You could also probably go up a needle size if you needed a bigger mitten size. But yeah, so this one is going for 40 DKK, which is about $5.93 US. I think these are another fantastic gift knit. Each one took me about, and it was like a full day of knitting, but each one took me about a day. So I knocked out a pair of mittens in 2 days practically. And yeah, you know, if you have anyone who's like working at their desk a lot and their fingers get cold, or maybe they bike a lot, or even skiing, I think probably would be good. I just think they're beautiful, and they're, you know, they're not difficult. I found that the pattern was fairly easy to memorize and read my work after a couple repeats. So, and you know, for the second mittens, I didn't even need to look at the pattern practically. I looked at it for the first setup row, and then I remembered from the previous mitten. So yeah, I recommend the pattern. Obviously, it's in my favorite knitted patterns. Okay, the next pattern I will be talking about is the first sock pattern that I ever knit. It's the Everyday Socks by PETITEKNIT. I'm actually wearing a pair right now. So these, I've made so many. I've made so many that I didn't even bring any in with me because I've shown so many in past videos. The first pair I ever made was for my mom. I'll put a picture here. Very beautiful. The second pair I ever made was for my boyfriend. The third pair I ever made was finally for myself. And for a long time, I didn't want to learn anything else because I was like, this is fantastic. I've memorized it. I'm good to go. And it is fantastic. It's a top-down sock with a German short row heel and a wedge toe, maybe? I'm not sure what it's called. You know, you just decrease on either side of the toe and then you Kitchener it together. And it's great. It's really fantastic. I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a very vanilla sock pattern that's very versatile. And again, I think it makes a great gift knit. You know, socks are a gift of love because it's fingering weight yarn, the needles are small. I knit almost all of my socks on 2.5mm needles or 2.25mm needles. I always use 9-inch circulars. That's my preferred method of knitting. But so let's talk about these. The Everyday Socks by PETITEKNIT. It calls for light fingering weight. I've also used a more heavy fingering weight, and I've had success with both. It says you want 30 stitches and 40 rows per 4 inches in stockinette. The needle size is a US 1.5 or 2.5mm needles. It says you need anywhere from 211 to 257 yards, and it comes in 5 sizes. It's fantastic. I learned my ideal stitch counts through this sock. I learned the German short row heel technique. I learned the length of the foot that I typically need for a sock. I learned so much from this sock pattern. It's still, if I'm feeling like I don't want to think about socks, it's still my go-to sock pattern, but I have found other heels that fit me a lot better, so I try to get myself to do those. But seriously, if I don't if I don't want to think about it and I just want a mindless knit, this is my go-to now. I really recommend it, and I've done many gift knits with this pattern, and everybody seems to really appreciate them. The next is the other sock pattern that I will be talking about, and they are the Morse Hell socks by INGA from Knitting Traditions. This is my boyfriend's favorite heel construction. He loves it. He prefers it over the German short row heel. It fits him better. And so I've only made myself 1 or 2 in this style, excuse me, but I've made him quite a few, and he really likes it. And I think it looks I think it looks fantastic. It does fit really great. It's a very interesting heel construction, which she's talked about before. She said that it's the traditional heel construction that her grandma does, and it's the heel construction that she was taught when she learned how to knit socks. So it has a very fun story behind it. So it calls for the Morse Hell socks by INGA SKEIE, maybe is how you pronounce it on Ravelry. It calls for fingering weight. Again, I've done it with light fingering and a heavier fingering. And in the pattern, it also gives instructions for a sport weight version, which is very cool. It says 28 stitches per 4 inches. Needle size, it says a US 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter, or a US 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter. I haven't done a 2.75 millimeter because I haven't done the sport weight version, but I have used a 2.25 and a 2.5 for this pattern and had good success. You will need anywhere from 230 to 437 yards, and it comes in 3 sizes for both fingering weight and sport weight. So very cool, very versatile. Again, I think a great gift knit option. I think if you want to do contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs, this is a better option than the PETITEKNIT everyday socks, because with the German short row heel, you need to go around the front once in between the short row shaping. So if you're doing a contrast, you typically will get 1 row of that contrast color on the front of the sock, which is fine and sometimes works just perfectly, but I don't particularly like the look for like solid colored socks. And so for this, you don't have that problem because you don't have to knit across the front. So this is going for, it just says here, $6 US. So next, I have knit this pattern twice, and it is the HANSTHOLM sweater by PETITEKNIT. It is a men's sweater pattern. This is going to be my boyfriend's Christmas present, one of them. And I've knit this in the Lion Brand Touch of Linen in the Cypress colorway. It's like a very deep green, which sometimes looks brown, sometimes looks gray, sometimes looks green, which I think is cool because that kind of makes it pretty versatile. I've also made this sweater for my uncle in the Lion Brand Pima Cotton in the pewter colorway, and I love it. I think it's the most perfect vanilla sweater. It's knit top down, folded neck raglan, 1x1 ribbing. There are sleeve decreases, and I think that the decrease rate is really nice. And yeah, I really like it. I might make one for myself, to be completely frank, because it's just, again, it's like a sweatshirt type of sweater where you can throw it on for any occasion. You can dress it up, you can dress it down, and I think it's fantastic. I think it would make a great gift knit if you were wanting to knit a, you know, basic sweater for someone. So let's talk about the details. The HANSTHOLM sweater by PETITEKNIT, it calls for DK weight yarn. I have mostly knit it in more of a worsted weight yarn, and I've had good success with that, but you know, that's my intention. it says you want it says you want 21 stitches and 28 rows per 4 inches in stockinette on the larger needle option. So the needle sizes are a US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter, and a US 6, which is a 4 millimeter. You will need anywhere from between 1,137 yards to 1,564 yards. And the only downside about this sweater is it really doesn't come in very many sizes. So I went back and forth about whether or not I wanted to put it in this video, but it truly is one of my favorite patterns I've knit so far, and one of the best men's sweater patterns that I've knit so far, so I felt like I needed to include it. It only has 5 sizes, which for PETITEKNIT being such a huge designer is not acceptable. I know that she is going through a lot of her older patterns and increasing the size ranges to 9, 10, or 11 sizes, so a much wider size range. So I'm really, really hoping that she goes back and does that for this pattern as well, because I think if it was accessible to everybody, it would be a much bigger hit than it is now, because it's just, it's fantastic. So this one is going for 45 DKK, which is about $6.64 US. So the last pattern that I have to talk about, maybe no surprise if some of you have watched some of my spring knitting videos, but it is the ripple bralette. Now, I don't have any to show because they're all at my house and I'm currently at my parents' house. So, but you can go back and watch some of my spring episodes because I do show all of them there. Did I say it's the ripple bralette? I'm sure I did. It's the ripple bralette DK version by Jessie made Designs. I know that the original bralette, which I think is in fingering weight, is very, very popular. I have both patterns, but I've personally only knit the DK version, and I love it. I'm actually going to go back because I just bought some like knitting in elastic, and I'm actually going to go back to all the ones I've knit and put some elastic at the bottom, because I do find after the first wear they don't hug anymore, and so I want them to hug me ribs, if you know what I mean. So yes, the ripple bralette DK version by Jessie made Designs calls for DK weight. I've used sport DK and worsted with this pattern and I've had success. So it says you want 16 stitches and 26 rows per 4 inches in 3x3 ribbing in the round. So the needle size are a US 3, which is a 3.25, and a US 6, which is a 4 millimeter. You will need anywhere from 96 to 500 yards, depending on the size that you make. And I think there's 11 sizes, which is fantastic. And the sample photos truly let all different body types shine. It shows just so many beautiful people, so many shapes, so many sizes. It's just amazing. It's amazing to see a pattern that you wouldn't necessarily think would be adaptable for different body types be so adaptable for so many different body types. I love to wear mine as undergarments. I have worn them under t-shirts, sweatshirts. You know, I've worn them on their own for practicing yoga, or if it's really hot and I'm out in the garden. I think they're super versatile because you can wear them on their own in the summer, or you can wear them as a layer in the colder seasons. So they're not one of the things that you put away when they don't apply anymore, because they apply all year round. So I have knit one of these as a gift knit and it went down so well. I think she really loved it, and I really love mine. I have one on the needles. It's not actually on the needles because I need the needles, so it's on hold, that I started probably in like March or April when I made all the other ones, and I'm at the point where it's knit bottom up, so now I have to split for the cups and whatnot, and I just, you know, I hit a little bit of I needed to take a little break from the Ripple Bralette DK, but I love it. So many people have made so many of them. I know Martina has made a lot of them. I think Kat from Heather and Hops has made a lot of them, and it's a fantastic pattern. It is $9 US, but if you sign up for Jessie Maed's like newsletter, she has this really fantastic option where you can pay what you can, sort of. There's different tiers of discount codes that give you, it's like, I'm making this up, I don't remember the numbers, but like 10% off, 20% off, 30% off, or whatever it is. So if you really want the pattern, but maybe you can't pay $9, she gives options to sort of pay what you can, which I think is so amazing and so generous. So that's it. Those are all the patterns that I have to share with you today. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that maybe you found something here that you had never seen before and want to make, or maybe you have seen all of them before, but this inspired you to make one, or maybe you just enjoyed 36 minutes of chat with me while you maybe knitted or crocheted or just chilled. I don't know. I would love to know what you were doing while I was just talking at you. So yes, that's all for now. I will be back hopefully soon with a normal podcast episode. And let me know if you would like to see any more of these roundup type of videos. Maybe I could do like my favorite free patterns, or, you know, whatever. Let me know. I'd love to know what you want to see. And yeah, I hope you're all well, and I'll be back when I have more to talk about. Bye!